Hello, my kindred souls. Welcome to the next step along our journey of what it means to be a highly sensitive spiritual being. So this is the second video in the series. So if you haven't seen the first one that introduces the concept, I will go ahead and link that right up here so you can check that out. Today, we're diving deeper into the traits, the signs, and the qualities of highly sensitive spiritual beings. Because not everyone is a highly sensitive spiritual being. Not even all light workers are. And we're really a rare group of unique souls that are designed or, created specifically to come to Earth and shake things up and build something new. But how do you even know if you are one, right? That's exactly what this video is about. Just going over all the traits and the qualities that you might find that you identify with more strongly than you have anything else in your whole neurodiverse life. Because yes, neurodiversity and not quite fitting in and feeling like you were meant for something different or like something more, those are huge pieces of your mission and the life purpose that you have. So let's dive in and see how many of these traits you not only recognize in yourself, but you may even find yourself thinking, well, I thought I was the only one. And if what I share in this video and what I shared in the last one resonates with you, make sure you stay around till the end, because I'm going to pull an angel card for our collective to see what message the angels have for us today. A message that will help guide us through the next steps of this really not so easy journey that we're on. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Sarah Dunn, and I'm an author and an angel intuitive and a former therapist who now shares spiritual guidance through books and videos and intuitive readings like angel card readings. And I talk about the deeper purpose behind things like depression and anxiety and neurodiversity, and how your sensitivity might actually be a sign of your spiritual past. So if that sounds like it might be useful to you, be sure to subscribe and go check out all the links that I have down in the description below. So what are the signs of being a highly sensitive spiritual being? What are some of the traits and qualities? There are actually many types of highly sensitive spiritual beings. There's, like earth angels and starseeds and indigo children and, a few other types like that. And each one of the types actually has their own traits and qualities that might help them on their mission. But there are a lot of traits actually that we tend to share and have in common. And those are the ones that I'm going to go over today. So if you notice these things, there's a good chance that you're here for more than just the average spiritual journey. And you're actually in and have been on quite a ride. So we actually went over these in the last video, these general traits. There's the sensory processing issues. So you're highly sensitive to the environment, to energy, to the things around you. You're highly sensitive to any kind of sensory stimulation, and all the things like these super bright lights drive me crazy. And I'm glad that as soon as the video is over, I get to turn them off, You also feel the emotions and energy of other people. You're an empath. And whether you fully realize it or not, you're probably walking around picking up on the emotions of other people and people around you. We also, very common, tend to feel different or as if we don't quite fit in. And this is especially as children or when we're young. And it is even within your own family that you may just feel like you're different, not quite right. Something is just a little bit different from you. And this continues into adulthood. It generally doesn't completely ever go away, if it does at all. So another significant trait that we have that is very telling of being a highly sensitive spiritual being is the need to help others. So you have a very kind and compassionate nature, and you really find it hard not to rise to the occasion to help other people. And, this happens regardless of what has happened to you in your past. Like, You may have been hurt, betrayed. Maybe you've tried to be stronger, or, to let go of attachments, or, to put yourself first. All of those things that people tell us that we're supposed to do to be a little bit stronger and less of a pushover, all of that stuff. Be less sensitive, all of that stuff. Maybe despite trying all of that and giving it your best shot, and maybe you've even isolated yourself. Maybe you've tried to just forget about other people and just live your own life. You don't really need them, but you find that it is unfulfilling just as much as it is to really just keep getting hurt, abused, and betrayed and abandoned by people. We also tend to have a very strong sense of justice. So if you sense there's something wrong in the world, or something that's not quite on par with your integrity and your truth, you're very likely to get very passionate about that, feel very strongly about it. You have a lot of integrity, and there's just a truth that you have to kind of live by. In addition to that, a lot of highly sensitive spiritual beings are drawn to other worlds, or like other realms. And this may manifest as being drawn to things like fantasy, or the mystical or magical things like unicorns and dragons and mermaids and fairies. You may also find that you're drawn to less kind of spiritual things like magic and fairies and stuff, but you still enjoy these otherworldly types of things, like even science fiction, vampires, or things like even Dungeons and Dragons. Another thing that's really common and experienced by highly sensitive spiritual beings is the tendency to like animals or nature or something like that other than people, more than people. So even for those of us who are drawn to helping people, this is kind of just related to our spiritual nature, but we tend to find more comfort and connection with animals, with nature, with water, with that sort of things. It's not that we don't like people by any means, but we do tend to connect and feel more comfortable around other things than people. So also a very connected and strong sense of spirituality. It's in the name, right? A highly sensitive spiritual being. So very sensitive and very drawn to the spiritual. Like probably your whole life you've had this just sense of there's something more than all of this. So you're drawn to things like angels, or learning about crossed over loved ones, or remote distance healing. You're drawn to that and you feel connected to that, and maybe you even have a very natural talent for it. So you just overall tend to have a need to know the truth. You know that there's something more, and you're drawn to that and knowing the truth of it all, not really just what you've been told. And along with that is a sense that you're here for something more. You just feel it. Even if you can't or never have been able to really put your finger on that and identify what that feeling is. So there are actually a couple more really important things that are like traits or experiences of highly sensitive spiritual beings that you need to definitely know about or be aware of. Anyone who is a highly sensitive spiritual being who is on this path with this special spiritual mission will have had very difficult, challenging past, and maybe full of some pretty extreme trauma and pain that you've had to go through. And I can get really deep on this one, and I already have actually some plans to do so in another video where I can spend much more time talking about it. But to put it simply, highly sensitive spiritual beings go through very challenging and difficult lives. There is a reason for this, and I'll tell you more about that. It is for a reason. It just has to be this way. But a telltale sign of a highly sensitive spiritual being is things like having a dysfunctional family of origin, abandonment, betrayal, abuse, trauma, domestic violence, extreme loss, and an overall lack of connections that lead to attachment and trust issues. And of course, as you can imagine, all of that leads to the very common experiences of having lots of depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, self-doubt, CPTSD, chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, all of this stemming from, past traumas, the dysfunctional families, the attachment wounds, this overall living and trying to function and survive in a world that can't really support you and your unique traits. So think about it like this. Imagine an angel coming into the earth, or like an ascended, evolved, highly loving being from another planet coming here, or even an earthly being from an ancient civilization that, fully understands and can tap into the magic and the power of the earth. They're here with such light and knowledge and drive that this world just can't quite, understand or grasp or even fathom what they're all about, right? This world it just can't accommodate such a being. And that's basically what we're talking about here, about the experience that you're having. Because this world that we've had to come into, it does not, or it can't yet really accommodate such a being. And the people that exist in this really dense 3D consciousness that we're born into, they tend to vilify what they do not understand. It is fear. And that's also a big part of what we're here to change. So probably one of my favorite traits actually is how contradictory we can be. So like we tend to be extremely stubborn, yet people pleasing at the same time. And some of that just comes from our nature. Some of it's from our experiences in the world, but it definitely tends to develop this way for most all of us. So as I've said, highly sensitive spiritual beings are neurodivergent and commonly not diagnosed either. And that's okay. We all know, honestly, when there is something different about us. You know this. So don't doubt yourself, which you probably will, because imposter syndrome is also a very common trait in highly sensitive spiritual beings as well. There's just so many traits actually that, and many of them are contradictory like that too. So that's just who we are. So actually, I put them all in a checklist that you can actually, download a PDF file. It looks like this, that you can go through and have a look at all these other traits. There's just too many to go over in this video. It would take way too long, but you can go ahead and download that if you want to. And I'll probably go over them more later too, of course, because like I said before, not everyone is a highly sensitive spiritual being. Not even every light worker is one. So this really isn't like just a one size fits all type of thing. We are unique and kind of rare. We're not alone. There's quite a few of us, but it's very likely that it has been hard for us to really find each other up until now, because we're meant to start rising up and to start coming together and healing. And as the world appears to be in chaos right now, we are what is happening underneath all of it, what's unseen and what's starting to create change that is inevitably coming, which is also why you may find that many of these traits that we're talking about and many that are in this checklist and what we'll go over later continue to call to you even when you try to resist them for whatever reason, such as the need to help. No matter how much you've tried to resist it or tried to do something else or tried to heal and grow, it's really difficult to move away from that. You're just called to do it. So I thought it might be fun to do the next video on types of highly sensitive spiritual beings, like earth angels, starseeds, indigo, that kind of stuff. Because those actually have unique traits that make up some of our unique personalities and can help you on your spiritual journey and your mission and what you're here to accomplish. I also really want to talk about what sets a highly sensitive spiritual being apart from a light worker? Because the differences are actually quite interesting, at least I think so. And I imagine that they will be extremely helpful to know about and to understand, especially if you're struggling with depression or a lack of self-love or self-acceptance type of stuff. I also have a lot to say about the mission and the purpose and the struggles and the benefits of being a highly sensitive spiritual being. Because believe it or not, it's not all about just overcoming or growing or learning or serving. There are some wonderful things that can actually come from this life path once we learn to really understand it. So anyway, I've just got so much like swirling around in my head to tell you about. So please just, let me know in the comments or on Facebook or Instagram or, email, wherever. Just let me know how this is going for you and what you need or what you want to know so I can be sure going forward to make videos that are going to best serve our collective. And speaking of our collective, I think that brings us to the angel card reading. So let's see what message the angels have for us today in light of all of this and how they might guide us on our path. And I am going to use the Light Seers Tarot. So remember, this message will be timeless, so angels can cross space and time, so it doesn't matter when you read or when you actually watch this video, this message can still very much apply to you. So of course it's a collective reading, so it's for all of us. Take what resonates and go ahead and leave the rest. Angels, what messages do you have for us today? Here we go. It's the Three of Wands. So this card would be the angel saying, you've come a long way, baby, and it's paid off, and your dream is on the way. So you've done a lot of work recently. You've probably gone through quite a bit, or, it could even be our message about, the kind of difficult path and the lives that we have had and struggled with. This would actually be a card that we've found that path and things are going to get better now. It's not things are going to get better just because it's going to fall in your lap. Things are going to get better because you have worked for it and you have put in your time, your passion, your effort, and now it's coming. So we're on the right path. We're doing great things. Be optimistic, believe, even when things may not appear to be quite manifesting yet or still might be difficult, or a lot of things in the world might be stressing you out or weighing you down. Your angels are telling you that things are starting to change and that dream is coming. So believe it. Believe in yourself, believe in spirit, and believe it's coming because the angels say it is. And as always, I am sending a ton of love and blessings to you all. Thank you so much for being here. And, thank you for becoming part of a family of kindred souls, of highly sensitive spiritual beings. It's kind of like a family that I never really thought that I could have. And I am so, so grateful for you. And I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Mwah.